and welcome to Addicted to Murder. This is Courtney, licensed professional counselor with over a decade of experience.
And this is Trisha, and this dew made a doo-doo on my car. A lot. I had so much doo-doo on my car the other day.
Oh, was it? I assume a bird of some sort.
Right. A very common bird, a pigeon.
Oh.
It's also called a dew, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Allegedly.
Have never heard that before, but all right.
The dew makes the doo-doo. Yeah, welcome back, Courtney. Part 2.
Yes.
Of at least 3, possibly 4. Don't know yet. Finish the book.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of story.
There's a lot of story. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of ickiness in this. Because of him, not because of her.
Obviously.
Yeah, I just, but before we get into everything, I've got a question for you.
All right.
Now, a couple years ago, we all lost power.
Yes.
And you had to go, and you lost water. And you had to go find a place to stay.
Yes.
My house was already full of other people that had no power or water. What have you done to prepare yourself for that happening again? Or have you done anything?
So we now have a propane stove.
Okay. Like a camping stove?
Like a camping stove, so that we can like boil water or heat food, things like that. And we have it like kind of stocked up on some of our like non-perishables and that kind of thing. We have, there's not a ton else that we can really do.
Because your fireplace doesn't work.
It works. It just like only produces heat for like the 2 feet in front of it.
Yeah. It needs like a blower or something.
Right. So we can sit right in front of the fire and be warm. But if we want to be on the couch, even in front of the fire, it's not warm enough.
But you can use your fireplace is clean enough.
Yes, we can. So I think the biggest thing was just like having like a propane stove so we could eat warm food and be able to boil water.
Yeah. I just got a solar, my dad got it for me, my parents got it for me, a solar generator. I'm actually just using it now. I'm charging it up out there and trying it out. So that's new. I have a whole bunch of other stuff that I've already had because I camp.
Right.
So I already got that stuff. I don't have a fireplace.
Right.
I do have indoor propane heaters that use propane. So I tried to stock up on that. And I do have another gasoline generator apparently coming my way. So, because it's going to happen again. It's like shit's not getting better. It's getting worse.
Yeah. We've talked about getting a generator, but it just has not been a purchase that we have made yet.
Spendy.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So, all right. Well, that was my question. Just wanted to see if you had made any adjustments to your emergency preparedness plan.
And now both of us, my husband and I, both have vehicles that can get down a hill when it is snowy and wintry conditions.
We just have the one Jeep.
Right.
But we don't live on a hill.
Your,
that doesn't have 4-wheel drive.
Oh. I was going to say, you've got your Escape.
Doesn't have 4-wheel drive. Got the base version. I do have, chains for it, and I've got socks for my car.
Right.
But the Jeep's the only one that has all-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive.
Got it.
So, all right. Well, hopefully we will be totally prepared this year.
Right. And hopefully there won't be another freak ice storm.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
Yeah, it was awful. Well, before we start on part 2 of Josef Fritzl, can you give us a little recap?
Sure. So last week we learned that Josef Fritzl was born in the 1930s in Austria, spending his formative childhood years growing up under the rule of the Nazis during World War II. Between the Nazi propaganda and his mother's rule with an iron fist, Josef learned that love, control, and violence are all connected and normal. He was a smart kid who became a successful engineer, got married, and had 7 children, but he couldn't keep it in his pants and was jailed for sexual assault.
Courtney, I realized that last time we didn't go over any diagnoses besides like the voyeurism and, the other one. What's the other
The
one?
exhibitionism?
Yes, that one. So now that we've seen it's got criminal history, what are you thinking?
No, so it's clear that Joseph likely has a personality disorder or maybe a combination of personality disorders. He meets many of the criteria for antisocial personality disorder, as well as having some features of like narcissism and NPD. What stands out the most is his need for control over others. He uses physical and psychological violence to establish and maintain control over his wife and children. He uses sexual assault via exhibitionism, voyeurism, and rape to gain control over others and to satisfy his sexual needs.
So we're seeing ASPD and then possibly narcissism.
Yes.
And we will see some other things emerge.
We will.
Yeah. So we left off with Joseph climbing the corporate ladder at work after getting out of prison for that rape and attempted rape and the voyeurism and all that stuff. The exhibitionism.
There you go.
They're not going on
Exhibits.
His wife had just given birth to twins, so his family was growing quite large. So he moved them all into his mother's house, and I guess it was like a big 3-story home. So when he moved into the house, he told the neighbors that his mother had passed away, but he may have actually imprisoned her in the attic upstairs until she died naturally in 1980. He later told a psychiatrist, quote, "I locked her up in a room at the top of the house. I then bricked in the window so that she never saw the light of day." Courtney, what do you think happened to his mom?
I think that Joseph himself was telling us the truth. He held her captive in his attic until she died. After the abuse that he experienced by her hand, when he had no control or power, it would make sense that he would then use the power he now had as an adult to, take some of that back. Obviously, and we'll learn more about these, he had fantasies about captivity, which we'll, learn more about. And, keeping his mom locked in the attic could be almost thought of as a trial run for what comes next.
Do you think it's odd, supposing that he did do this to his mom, that at some point the power dynamic did shift? Because, it could have kept going on where she would have had this power over him no matter how old and big he was. Mm-hmm. But if he did imprison her in the attic at some point, that was a total shift. And do you then think he didn't think his mother was the most wonderful woman in the world anymore?
I think it's definitely possible. I sort of think of, there is a shift, especially if, say, his mom was older, if she was sick at all, if she had any frailty to her, that could, definitely shift that power dynamic if he's suddenly like this big, strong, healthy man. Mm-hmm. Also, she was a firm believer, right, in the Third Reich and in him being a strong Nazi man, right? And so it's possible that as he became an adult, that power dynamic shifted and that she, her ideology was that, well, men are the head of the household now.
Okay. I just keep thinking of like Ed Kemper. I know it's different, but
right,
the mommy issues he had with,
Right, yeah. So it's not clear whether or not she gave that control over willingly or if it was taken.
It's just interesting.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting.
If that's what happened to her. But anyhow, he decided to demolish the old house, or at least parts of the old house, and build another one. And he made sure, though, to keep the original like cellar basement in place because he had plans to turn it into a bunker where he could do whatever he wanted. The townspeople did not forget about his predator status, and little children were warned to stay away from the house. He got a new job that involved traveling several days during the week, and he loved this. It meant he could frequent brothels to help satiate his out-of-control sex drive. He started to experiment more with sadomasochism at this time. Courtney, let's refresher quick on sadomasochism, please.
Yeah, so we'll break it down into its parts. So sado, or sadism, refers to getting pleasure or enjoyment from someone else's pain and suffering. Masochism refers to getting pleasure or enjoyment out of your own pain and suffering. And while it's not always the case, sadomasochism is most often linked with sexual arousal and gratification, and many serial rapists and killers display sexual sadism.
Well, when he was at home, he was like a drill sergeant to his large family. The children were made to call him sir. In fact, if he entered a room, the kids were to stop whatever they were doing and like stand at attention. Joseph beat the crap out of his wife, Rosemary, and she constantly feared for her life. He would belittle her in public and totally dominate her. Rosemary would have their seventh and last child when she was 33 in 1972. By this time, Joseph's criminal past was somewhat forgotten in the town, and he was thought of as a good Catholic father with a good work ethic. He started to branch out and acquired some property that he would turn into RV sites, or he developed some like little homes and stuff like that, kind of became like a landlord. He told Rosemary in no uncertain terms that he was done with her sexually. He was no longer attracted to her. She had gained some weight.
7 pregnancies.
Right. That dreaded 30. Joseph wanted more children, however, and he knew who he wanted as his partner. So this is where the story gets pretty upsetting. So trigger warning on the abhorrent sexual abuse that ensues throughout the rest of this case. So his fourth daughter, little Elizabeth, is now 11 years old, and this is when her father starts to rape her. In the summer of 1977, Rosemary took all of the children except Elizabeth on an Italian vacation. During the time that she was left with her father, she claimed the rapes escalated. He would rape her in the cellar of their home, in his car, or on walks in the forest. She would later say, quote, "I don't know why it was so, but my father simply chose me for himself." When Joseph was questioned later, he would deny having sex with his daughter until she was 18, as he claimed not to like little girls. Courtney, what do you want to say?
So this is where the consequences of Joseph's own abuse really become apparent, not to excuse any of his behavior. So the incestual relationship he had with his mother is now being repeated between Joseph and his daughter. So not only is Joseph reliving his formative sexual experiences and fantasies, but sexually assaulting his own daughter is a way of exerting control over her in a way that he never really could towards his mom. And I don't think he was a pedophile. His attraction to Elizabeth was not her being 11 years old. It was her status as his daughter that was important.
And when he starts to rape Elizabeth, I wonder if it's occurring around the time where his shift with his mother occurred.
It's possible.
Maybe like she replaced that, so he was like in the attic with you. I don't know.
It's possible.
I don't know what the timelines are there because we don't know for sure that he kept her in the attic. But Elizabeth, like many survivors of this type of abuse, was too embarrassed or too ashamed to tell anyone about her circumstances. She would eventually confide in some close friends when she got older, but as a preteen, she kept the secret to herself. Courtney, can you tell us a little bit how this occurs in young children? And we see it all the time. What are some of the most common reasons they do not come forward? And what do you think is happening psychologically to Elizabeth?
Children's feelings towards parental abusers can be complicated. While they may hate what's being done to them, they still have love for their parent that has been, established and doesn't just disappear. Right? For Elizabeth, she had 11 years of, maybe not good childhood, but of non-sexual abuse childhood.
Yeah.
Where she still, loved and cared about him as her dad, and that doesn't just go away. Many children don't want their parent to get in trouble. They want to protect their family system, or they blame themselves for the abuse. Other times, threats or coercion is involved, like, the parent saying they'll kill the child or kill the other family members if the child tells. And, often, and, likely more often, back in the early 80s or 70s, I guess late 70s, I suppose it was, children may worry that they won't be believed, that there will be more consequences for telling that are worse than the abuse itself. So lots of things that could have been going on in her mind. We don't know all the dynamics. But with, 6 other children in the home, it may have been,
who knows what threats.
If he does it to me, he doesn't do it to them. Or he may have threatened, if you don't let me do this, or if you tell, then I'll kill your siblings. Or there's lots of reasons why kids don't tell.
Do you think that this dynamic is not as common because not only is there the sexual abuse, which typically involves grooming and maybe they pick out a favorite and blah, 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 but he's beating the crap out of all of his kids.
Yes.
Do you think that's kind of weird that those two things are happening? Or do you think that it's more common than we think to have both kinds of abuse occurring?
I think it's more common than we think. Polyvictimization is, honestly, the more of what we see than just one kind of abuse. And often what starts with kind of like physical abuse when you're younger, because that works as kind of a form of control, then sexual abuse gets sort of added as another layer of control and domination. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they were both happening. And it could be another reason why she didn't tell.
Yeah.
Right? If she was already getting beat up, how much worse was it going to be if she told someone and they didn't believe her?
Right. Well, her friends would later say that if she came home late or he saw her wearing makeup, her dad, or not dressed conservatively enough, Joseph would violently punish her. Do you think that this is because he was jealous of other boys who might have been looking at her?
Jealousy may have been a part of it, but ultimately I think it just boils down to wanting to have complete control over her.
Okay. So Elizabeth's personality changed from a bright, bubbly girl to one who was very closed off. She was very nervous. She was very private. Elizabeth was beaten more than her other siblings. He would slap her for every little thing, and he would do this in front of the others. So this poor young girl had no idea what was going to happen because during this time, her father's fucked up and warped mind was figuring out a way to imprison her. So Joseph's plan was to convert the cellar into a dungeon, a sex dungeon for his favorite daughter. It would take him 6 years to do so, but he began at this time the slow and arduous task of the conversion of this house. And this evil-ass genius even figured out a way to get his dungeon subsidized by the government. He was going to call it a, quote, nuclear shelter, because this was during the Cold War, so he was able to get grants to help with his sadistic project. So, on Halloween 1978, the city granted Joseph the ability to build a 24-foot underground nuclear shelter. And over the next 5 years, Joseph would remove 250 tons of dirt, which if you looked at it another way was 17 truckloads. So Courtney, this is so beyond comprehension. This dude had the foresight to get his torture chamber paid for by the government and then patiently spent 5 years constructing this by himself. When the bunker was done, he then covertly brought in bricks and pipes, wall panels, and all sorts of things to make it somewhat livable. Do you have anything you want to say about this obsessive project?
Well, clearly Joseph had been fantasizing about having this sex dungeon for a long time. And he was very intelligent and planful. Being an engineer, he would know what it takes. He knew how to avoid suspicion and to build things the correct way. He wanted things to last. It reminds me a little bit of Leonard Lake's garage/cell project, except that Joseph's was more elaborate and better thought out.
And just the patience.
Yep.
He's in some ways, he's so impulsive back when he was getting in trouble and not really being incognito about his,
flashing of women.
Yeah, or raping them. But in this, he's very patient about it. It's
right. Well, I think,
weird.
He already has the control over his daughter.
It's true.
She's not going anywhere.
That's
so
true.
He can take his time and, as horrible as it might be, do it right.
Yeah. Well, during his construction, Joseph was still insatiable, and in Austria, prostitution was legal. He would frequent brothels, spending up to $225 an hour. This is in the 70s, so I gotta think this was very... I don't know if that's the conversion to American dollars in Austrian. I don't know, whatever. But
that would
still,
be a lot of money.
It sounds like a lot of money. And he wanted the sex workers to play corpses for him while he pleasured himself. He would go several times a week. But many of the girls refused to work with him because he was creepy and he was also dangerous because sometimes instead of playing corpse, he would torture the women until they were close to death to satisfy himself. And he allegedly would tie up a woman, put her into a sack and tie it closed so that she would practically suffocate. And during this time while she was suffocating, he would be yelling and screaming obscenities at her. So Courtney, what is this all about?
Well, it's another escalation of Joseph's sexually sadistic behaviors. And I really do think it all comes back around to control. Life and death is the ultimate control of another person. So having a woman pretend to be dead or engaging in life-threatening behaviors like strangulation would be particularly arousing for him. Additionally, putting a bag over their heads and yelling insults was dehumanizing and humiliating, likely mirroring the ways that Joseph was humiliated by his mom when he was a child.
I wonder if she put him in a bag
I don't know.
or locked him in a closet or something.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, when he was home, he was still terrorizing his family. One of his sons would run and hide in a corner and wet his pants every time his father came into the room. He used his fists to beat all of them. He did it indoors, but he would also do it in public. Elizabeth was becoming more and more withdrawn as her father's abuse escalated. Joseph also used the technique of Schittling. Oh God, I don't even know what that is. Scheitling. This was an approved Austrian method of punishment. Children had to kneel on a piece of wood for up to an hour until they started to bleed. He would also pour rice on the ground and have the kids stand barefoot on the rice with their arms out while balancing a big book. If they fell, he would whip them. Elizabeth would often not participate in school sports because of all of the bruises on her body that she was ashamed of. Really quick, I'm just going to see how to say this. I should have looked this up before. Never mind. Didn't work. Courtney, this man is abhorrent. Any thoughts?
I mean, your descriptions accurately covers it. He's horrible. And, I've heard of these types of punishments before. Sometimes it's kneeling on the rice, too.
Yeah, I've heard of that
because it digs
one.
in. Mm-hmm. Or, standing and having to, hold your arms out and balancing a book or something. So, not unheard of, but I mean,
yeah.
how awful that this was, government approved?
Yeah. Well, different time, different place.
It's true. That's true.
Corporal punishment, still okay, somewhat.
Yeah.
Legally.
And used to be much more common.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth finished school at age 15. She was not a great student, but who could blame her? Poor thing. Joseph put her to work and got her a job as a waitress. She was also able to go, although grudgingly, by her father to a... Okay, sorry. So she got a job as a waitress, and she was able to go to a technical college 100 miles away and stay in a dorm. So Joseph let her go, but he didn't want to, right? But she was able to go. So, of course, at this time, Elizabeth was just ecstatic at this freedom. She was away from her father's brutality, constant sexual attention, but it only lasted 2 months. So she had to go home after 2 months, and then her life returned to how it was before she left. In 1982, Joseph's record was officially expunged of his rapes, and it was like it never happened, on paper anyways. Joseph was linked to a couple mysterious fires on his multiple properties during this time, but nothing could be proven. So he escaped jail time, and he also collected fire insurance claims. So when Elizabeth was 17, she ran away with a friend whom she confided in about what her father was doing to her. Joseph, of course, was pissed and reported her missing. After 3 weeks, the girls were caught and they were sent home. Elizabeth was no longer allowed to see her friend, and Joseph started spreading word around town about her daughter's bad behavior and that she was a black sheep. Unfortunately for Elizabeth, public knowledge of her running away gave lead to the perfect story of where she had gone when she was held prisoner by her father. So again, his foresight.
Yes, he was able to use that. Oh, she's a runaway. She's a troublemaker.
Right. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth was still going to school for hospitality and cooking. Must have been closer, or I'm not sure. She had a wild streak. Allegedly, she liked to drink and party. And again, who can blame this girl for doing anything to escape her hellish life? One of her friends said, quote, "She partied hard and worked as little as she could. She could down more beer, schnapps, and wine than most." Courtney, do you have any statistics or insights into how many, sex abuse and physical abuse victims resort to substance abuse, or anything else you want to talk about regarding Elizabeth's behavior?
I'd say Elizabeth's rebellious behavior is very understandable and normal for adolescents that grow up in controlling and abusive households. She was absolutely trying to escape her reality as much as possible. So, substance abuse is very common among victims of child abuse. One study that I read used the term chemical dissociation
I like
to
that.
describe the way that substances help people detach from their emotional experiences. In that same study, they found that of the adults who'd experienced childhood abuse, 65.9% reported having abused substances at some point in their life as well.
That would be a good band name, Chemical Dissociation.
It would be. Like trap music.
Something. I don't know. I like that term because I
do
do.
too.
I feel like, when I drink, I am trying to dissociate or like disconnect.
Right.
And I'm using alcohol to do that because otherwise my mind won't shut up.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So that's exactly what a lot of trauma victims
yeah.
use substances for.
All right. It's 1983. Joseph is 48 years old and he's finishing up his dungeon. He had installed a ventilation system for oxygen. He put in a fridge, a gas cooker, and a toilet. He also had electricity wired down there. There was a gas furnace to burn garbage, and he soundproofed the walls. There was also a concrete and steel door that had an electric motor with a remote control, and it needed a code to enter.
Thinking of everything.
Right. And, the whole time he was doing this, he just told his family to stay out.
Right.
What
it's
he's
a
doing.
nuclear bomb shelter.
Yeah. Elizabeth turned 18 on April 16th, 1984, and she was almost done with her 3-year college training. And she was full of hope for the future. She was going to be a cook or something, a chef or something. On August 28th, 1984, Joseph asked Elizabeth for help to move a heavy door down to the basement, and Elizabeth agreed. And when they got down there to the basement level, he asked her to help with the 600-pound door. Then, without warning, he pushed her into the cellar. He used an ether-soaked handkerchief and covered her face. She tried to fight him off, but it was to no avail. She passed out from the ether, and her father put her in the dungeon on the bed. He tied her up, and when she roused, he told her to be quiet. He then brutally raped her over and over. He turned off the lights, making it completely black, and left, locking her in. When she woke later, she found herself handcuffed to a metal pole. When her father came back, he brutally raped her again. He would then drug her, leave her attached to the wall, and turn the lights off, making it completely dark before leaving again. Elizabeth screamed until she lost her voice, but he had soundproofed the room. Elizabeth would not see the outside of the dungeon for a very, very long time. Courtney?
Well, it sounds like Joseph finally has achieved his big dream of having a sex dungeon for his daughter. And I mean, there's no word strong enough for like how much like empathy and compassion I have for Elizabeth at this time, now being tied up, drugged, and locked in a room in complete darkness by her own father.
How terrifying. And time has no... What is time when you're in like basically a deprivation chamber?
Right. There's no sense of time when it's just, when there's no sunlight, when there's no changing. It is just dark.
So, on that dreary note, that's where we're going to end for the day.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that ended really sad. I mean, we don't normally end really not sad, but that was just like, maybe I should have thought of something else to put in there, but I didn't. So that's where we're at.
I mean, that's where the story is. It's the truth of it. And
the story gets worse, you guys.
I'm guessing we should put that out now that, again, for those who might be extra sensitive to child sexual abuse and incest, maybe don't listen to next week's episode or to the next episode after this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, I hope that everyone stays safe, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.